We observe today not a victory of party, but a celebration of freedom.
That gift of freedom is actually the birthright of all humanity.
As we peer into society's future,
I can conceive of a national destiny which meets the responsibilities of today and measures up to the possibilities of tomorrow.
Now, what does all of this mean in this great period of history? It means that we've got to stay together.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the 2026 National Civics B Colorado State Finals. I'm Kyle Clark with 9 News, and I will be your guide through today's event. Thank you all for being here. We're about to watch some Colorado's top middle school civics scholars compete for the opportunity to represent our state at the national championship in Washington. Thank you all for being here. This event isn't just a competition each year, it is an absolute joy to watch and to be a part of. And each year I'm reminded that this is an antidote for a lot of what ails us as a society, because in my line of work as a journalist, I hear all of the familiar, tired complaints, but this Civics Bee, this actual event is often my response. You know, I'll hear, young people don't know their history. Watch the Civics Bee. Kids don't appreciate the greatness of the American experience. They take this country for granted. Watch the Civics Bee. We're stuck with the same old stale solutions from the same old predictable people for our problems. Watch the Civics Bee. So let's do that. Let's watch the Civics Bee. Before we begin, I would like to invite everyone to please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Cameron Parker. Cameron is the 2025 Colorado State Champion of the National Civics Bee, and he'll also share a few words. Cameron, please. Good to see you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I want to take a moment and appreciate how many people are in this room right now. It's amazing to see how many people are here today, and that the passion for civic engagement is blossoming. To our brilliant middle school students, your hard work and dedication to learning inspires us all. I'm honored to be sharing what civics means to me, because civics is more than just history. It is what builds connections, what makes our communities stronger, and the legacy of a 250-year-old nation. So for supporting America, I want to thank the National Civics Bee and its sponsors, and I want to be thanking all of you for your passion in civics. Basically, you're all amazing. I'm rooting for all of you, and go Colorado!
Cameron, thank you. So today's program is hosted by the Colorado Chamber of Commerce Foundation, which also brings the National Civics Bee to communities across our state through a network of regional partners. Please join me in welcoming their executive director, Rachel Beck.
Thank you, Kyle. Good morning, everyone. As you can imagine, it takes an awful lot of people and partners to put on an event like this, and so I want to start with some heartfelt thanks to those folks. Our sponsors make today's event possible. Thank you to Kinder Morgan, who's been our presenting sponsor for 3 years running. Our premier sponsor is Xcel Energy. You can thank our technology sponsor, Chevron, for your iPads. Our civics advocate is PacWest. And finally, we want to thank Suncorp, who contributed gas cards so that those of you who had to travel from around the state to be here would have just a little bit of an easier time doing that. There would be no Civics Bee without our founding partner, the Daniels Fund, who has invested millions to help scale this competition from something that started as a regional initiative to a program that now spans all 50 states, Washington, D.C., and even American Samoa. I also want to thank the Adolph Coors Foundation, which supports the Civics Bee specifically in rural communities, and the El Pomar Foundation. Let's give them a hand as well. So welcome back to the Greater Arvada Chamber of Commerce. Buena Vista Chamber of Commerce and League of Women Voters of Chaffee County, Denver Metro Chamber of Commerce, and the Eastern Plains Chamber of Commerce. And I'm pleased to welcome 4 new partners this year: the Alamosa Chamber Foundation, the Carbondale Chamber and Youth Entity, Kids at Their Best from Fort Morgan, the Grand Junction Area Chamber of Commerce, and Lamar Community College. This year's Civics Bee has special significance as we celebrate our country's 250th birthday. And I know many of us have been reflecting on what we've accomplished in that time and what we might need to work on going forward. Benjamin Franklin famously said that we have a republic if we can keep it. The success of the American experiment was never given. The job of keeping it is something that doesn't end, and it's a job that belongs to all of us. And we've kept it thus far because over those 250 years, people from all walks of life, like all of you, have taken up the cause of democracy and carried it forward. If you're competing today, whether you realize it or not, you've done that through your ideas for how to make your communities better, which you will present to the judges later today. So here's a warm-up question for you. If 10 of your neighbors took the same test today that you're taking, how many of them do you think would pass? Show of fingers. Boy, there are some not optimists in the room today. I saw somebody holding up 3 fingers, and you're right. Statistically, three people would pass that test. So those of you who are competing, you are in the top 30% of your fellow citizens by being here and demonstrating your knowledge of how our government works. That knowledge matters because if you want to take action to address challenges and opportunities in your community, you have to know our history and how our community systems work, and you have to understand the shared values that make our democracy possible. And if you want to have a role in the civic life of your community, there are many paths you can choose from. In this room today, there are remarkable people who are doing that through business, through elected office, through nonprofit work. And I encourage you to take the time to talk to some of them about their public service so that it can inform your own journey. And I hope your participation today is just the start of many ways that you will learn about and influence your communities. Everyone here is proud of you for the work that you've put in to be here, and we wish each of you the best of luck in the competition. Now, speaking of people who are making a difference in their communities, it's my privilege to introduce our keynote speaker, Congressman Joe Neguse. Congressman Neguse represents District 2, which is northern and western Colorado, and one of our state's largest and most rural districts. He is the first Black member of Congress in Colorado history, and he's also the first Coloradan to serve as a senior member of Democratic leadership in the House in nearly 90 years. He has received national recognition for being one of the most effective lawmakers in the country, working to restore hope in democratic institutions, and for his service town halls. And he has a special connection to the Civics Bee. As naturalized citizens, his parents have answered some of the very same questions that you competitors will be answering later today. So please welcome Congressman Neguse to the stage.
Well, good morning. It is such a privilege and an honor to be here with all of you this morning. Having spent the last couple of days in Washington, I can say you all are a sight for sore eyes, and it's great to be back in Colorado, and in particular for this occasion, to be a part of the Civics Bee. Thank you to the organizers for the invitation and for letting me be a part of this incredibly important competition. Now, I have to say that I struggled with what I might impart to all of you this morning. The organizers contacted us earlier this week and asked us to send them my remarks so they could put them in the teleprompter, I guess, which we failed to do because I just could not land on what I wanted to say, what I wanted to convey. That struggle is born from perhaps a couple of different reasons. One, just some general nervousness. I usually don't get nervous when I'm delivering speeches, but I think, fairly describe to you all that I was as nervous being here this morning as I am preparing for an interview with Kyle Clark. That level of nervousness. And it is largely because I know that of all the audiences that I'll speak to, over the course of the next couple of weeks as I'm back here home in Colorado. This is perhaps the most well-informed group of citizens and young folks about our civic institutions, about civic life, about our republic. That nervousness is also born from the realities that I think we find ourselves in a very jaded time politically. It is hard not to spend time in Washington, D.C. and come away from it jaded and perhaps a bit cynical about the state of our politics and the health of our democratic republic. So given all of that, what could I possibly impart to these brilliant, talented 6th and 7th and 8th graders? I tried to put myself in your shoes. I'm lucky to have grown up in Colorado. I grew up in Highlands Ranch, about 20 miles south of here. I remember being where you are. Tom Tancredo was my congressman when I was growing up. And I thought about what might motivate me most when I was in your shoes. Two simple messages that I thought perhaps might be the most important I could impart. The first is simple. It is a note of gratitude. To the young folks who are participating in today's competition, I tell you, thank you. On behalf of every one of your fellow 6 million citizens in our great state, for having a passion and a commitment to civics education, to learning more about this profoundly special country that we are also blessed to call home, for your willingness to step forward and put yourselves out there in the arena, as you will, competing this morning. You have no idea how proud you are making, not just, of course, your parents, and you can see that in their beaming smiles today, but in your teachers, in your friends, and in countless Coloradans whom you may not meet, but who will benefit from the way in which you are inspiring them. This second thing that I suppose I could impart this morning, and I suspect it's something that doesn't need to be said, given the very ambitious crop of young folks who are participating in this year's competition, but it is worth saying nonetheless. And that is, after today, to stay engaged, to stay involved, to keep the faith. We need your participation now more than ever. It would not be a Civics Bee without some quotes from founding fathers. And you heard one of my favorite from Benjamin Franklin, Rachel mentioned, which I speak about constantly. One that I think I'll share with all of you is from John Adams, who's really one of our forgotten founding fathers. He doesn't have a monument in Washington, D.C. He's the only founding father who doesn't have a monument in Washington, D.C. We're working, anyway, I'm getting way into the weeds on that, an obsession of mine. John Adams, in 1787, during the Constitutional Convention, wrote a letter to one of his colleagues about his greatest fears for our democratic republic. And he was an optimistic man, as were his brethren, but he had fears. He had doubts. And his greatest fear was, I quote, "I fear that in every assembly, members will gain influence, not by sense, but by noise, not by greatness, but by meanness, not by learning, but by ignorance, and not by large souls, but by craven hearts." And I think about that quote a lot in the context of our current political system, and as we celebrate 250 years of American independence, the realities of his warnings being prescient, I think. We need more people in public life who ultimately care about those core values of learning, of common sense, of decency, of humanity, of generosity, of civic virtue, which Jefferson and Adams and Hamilton and so many others wrote so profusely about. We live in an incredible country. We are very lucky to live in a country where young people like yourselves can ultimately achieve your dreams, where someone like me, with a funny last name, growing up in Highlands Ranch, could become a U.S. congressman. I suspect that Mr. Clark and Mr. Hibble, my friend, and so many others here who've been able to live their dreams could attest to that same fact. But it is something we ought to jealously guard. And the best way to do that is to have a well-educated, civically engaged society.
You all, the young people here, are the vanguard. And we have a lot to learn from you. If we could emulate your passion for civics, I suspect our Congress would function a whole lot better. So I wish you the best of luck. I hope that many of you will pursue careers in public service, perhaps run for Congress yourself. Thankfully, you have to be 25, so my re-election may be guaranteed for this November. For those who live in the 2nd District in Steamboat or Jackson County or Boulder or elsewhere. But I wish you all the best. You've made us all so proud, and we look forward to everything you'll achieve in the years ahead. Thanks so much. Best of luck today.
Congressman Neguse, thank you very much. All right, let's get started. So, we're about to call up the finalists. As I call your name, please find your spot up here and log on to your iPad there. Just a reminder to audience members, you have the opportunity to compete along with these top civics contestants from around Colorado's middle schools. That goes for everybody who is watching at home on 9 News as well. The login will be up in just a moment. You think to yourself, why exactly would I want to subject myself to that abject humiliation of competing against the smartest children in Colorado? And the very American answer is the thrill of competition and the chance to win stuff. You will have the opportunity to win an iPad if you are the top scoring in-house contestant who is not one of these finalists. There are no points for having an incredibly interesting name, which is a shame because there are a ton of all-stars on this year's roster, but it is a credit to the creative parents out there. If you'd please come up when I announce your name. Our first contestant is Alex Yao from Kent, Denver. Archer Knickerbocker Payton from Kent, Denver. Ava Salgado Moe from Century Middle School in Thornton. Avery Duran from Sanford Junior Senior High in Sanford. Kaysen Chick from Campo Undivided High School in Campo. Elsie Rasmussen from Buena Vista Middle School. Ava Ramirez from Brush Middle School. Ezekiel Polly from Sanford Junior Senior High. Hannah Deering from Yuma Middle School. Hannah Sickmeller from Merritt Academy in Woodland Park. Asher Nathan from Kent, Denver. Hope Barnhart from Liberty Common Junior High School in Fort Collins. Joey Mae Levitt from Caprock Academy in Grand Junction. Josie Chambers from the Classical Academy in Colorado Springs. Happy birthday to Jude Greener from Glenwood Springs Middle School in Glenwood Springs. Kyla Depew from Darren Patterson Christian Academy in Buena Vista. Liam Puckett, also from Darren Patterson Christian Academy. Michaela Powell, Caprock Academy, Grand Junction. Natalie Schiff from Fort Morgan Middle School. Paul Quintana from Sierra Grande Middle School in Blanca. Peter Daniel from Stargate Charter School in Broomfield. Sydney Zane from Lewis Palmer Middle School in Monument. Sylvie Fenley from Steamboat Springs Middle School. Towns Rife from Campo Undivided High School in Campo. Violet Bach from Steamboat Springs Middle School. And Waylon Rife from Campo as well. Now that I got your clapping hands warmed up, please welcome our panel of 5 judges. Caroline Woodhouse is a lobbyist representing Kinder Morgan, today's presenting sponsor. Welcome, Caroline. Robert Kenney is the president of Xcel Energy Colorado. Chad Calvert is the senior director of state government affairs at Chevron. Carrie Tynan is chief executive officer at the Adolph Coors Foundation. And Beverly Razan is the Senior Vice President of Public Affairs at COPIC and the Board Chair of the Colorado Chamber Foundation. All right, a reminder to our student contestants that personal devices, cell phones, smartwatches, and so forth are not allowed on stage. If you happen to have one, it's no big deal. Just wave it in the air and somebody will grab it from you. As we learned from our first year, this is also when we must pat you down, at least verbally, for pocket constitutions. Does anyone have a pocket constitution? There was a young man the first year who had one. He very sheepishly gave it up. He was not an attempt to cheat. I have no doubt he carries it everywhere, but he had a pocket constitution. All right, if we are clear of our phones and our watches and our pocket constitutions, I'll quickly run through the rules. Y'all know them, but this is for your parents and for folks at home. There we go, here's a phone. Who knows this handsome young man and can take property of this phone? Come right over here. I appreciate your honesty. All right. Today's competition will have 3 rounds. First 2 rounds, all the state finalists will answer 20 civics-based quiz questions. Every finalist will answer the same multiple choice questions within the same allotted time. Each question and answer will be read aloud. 30-second timer starts when I finish the question. Each correct answer, 1 point. Incorrect answers and answers left blank, 0 points. So you need to pick an answer, all right? So no points for leaving it blank. So please do pick an answer. End of round 1 and 2, we'll display the leaderboard on the screen. Your parents will cheer. We will see which students are in the lead. The 5 finalists with the highest scores at the end of round 2 advance to round 3. If there is a tie for 5th place at the end of round 2, I'll do a tiebreaker round of 3 questions. Only the students involved in the 5th place tie will answer those questions. If you're not tied for 5th place, you will not answer them. Points accumulated in the tiebreaker round will not count towards overall scores, just the tiebreaker. At the end of the tiebreaker, I'll announce the finalists who will advance to round 3. Students, during the quiz rounds, if you run into any kind of technical issues with your pads or there's any questions, shoot a hand up and we'll get you help right away, okay? Don't be bashful. Shoot a hand up. Of course, we know that everybody will be participating with integrity, so everybody keep your eyes on your own tablets. I think we might have a good on the login issue? Good on the login issue, yes. And the same pledge of honesty goes for all of the parents out there and everybody participating at home on 9 News. If you Google the answer, the ghosts of the Founding Fathers will see you and they will judge you harshly. Do not do that. For the audience, the URL is in the upper left-hand corner there. There's a QR code up there as well, so you can enter that into your personal devices. Select Spectator in the Join settings in order to play along. And remember, while it will be embarrassing when you do not score as well as your child, you have the opportunity to win an iPad, which is kind of cool. All right, everybody ready to get started? Good? Good. Question 1. Which founding principle is most clearly reflected in the phrase, "We the people," from the preamble of the Constitution? A, separation of powers. B, consent of the governed. C, federalism. D, limited government. That answer music is dialed in this year. The answer is B, consent of the governed. Question 2, which statement accurately describes the federal representation of the District of Columbia and U.S. territories? Is it A, both are recognized as states with full representation? B, both lack voting senators and send non-voting delegates to the House? C, the District of Columbia has 2 senators but no House members? Or D, U.S. territories elect voting members to the House of Representatives? That's time. B, both lack voting senators and send non-voting delegates to the House. Question 3. Under what circumstances can the writ of habeas corpus be suspended according to the Constitution? Not according to your uncle on Facebook or somebody on cable news, but according to the Constitution. A, when an election is taking place and new leaders are being chosen. B, when Congress passes a law authorizing the suspension with President's approval. C, when the government is out of funds and cannot meet expenses. Or D, when there is a rebellion or invasion and public safety is in danger. That's time. The answer is D, when there is a rebellion or invasion and public safety is in danger. Question 4. The Supreme Court considered the constitutionality of prior restraint in Neer v. Minnesota in 1931. What does prior restraint mean? A, punishing speech after it is spoken. B, government stopping speech before it is published. C, a journalist refusing to testify. Or D, a limit on political donations. That's time. The answer is B, government stopping speech before it's published. Question 5. Which of the following leaders became an outspoken supporter of women's rights and was the only African American to attend the Seneca Falls Convention on Women's Rights? A, Ida B. Wells. B, Sojourner Truth. C, Harriet Tubman. D, Frederick Douglass. That's time. The answer is D, Frederick Douglass. And with that, we are halfway through round 1. I see a lot of nervous families and parents out there. Here's the deal. I can see the kids' screens. I'm looking over their shoulder. They're doing great. I don't know how you're doing. They're doing great. Question 6. During the Constitutional Convention, what were George Mason and Elbridge Gerry's beliefs regarding a Bill of Rights? A, they believed that a Bill of Rights would imply any rights not listed did not exist, and therefore opposed adding one. B, they argued that the Constitution was already sufficient in its structure to prevent abuses of power without the need for a Bill of Rights. C, they feared that the absence of explicit protections for individual rights would lead to government overreach and tyranny. Or D, they believed that an even stronger executive was needed in order to protect and uphold a Bill of Rights. That's time. The answer is C. They feared that the absence of explicit protections for individual rights would lead to government overreach and tyranny. Question 7. Congress orders state workers to check gun buyers using a federal system. The state objects. What limit applies? A, Congress cannot require state officers to do federal tasks. B, states can ignore any federal law they dislike. C, the president can direct state workers at any time. D, city councils decide what state workers must do. That's time. The answer is A. Congress cannot require state officers to do federal tasks. Question 8. Who was eligible for naturalization under the Naturalization Act of 1790? A. Anyone born outside the United States. B. Native Americans. C. Free whites of good character. D. Enslaved persons who were freed. That's time. The answer is C, free whites of good character. Another little insight is the only person who can watch over their shoulders while they do this. It's astonishing how quickly they answer. Like, it's wild, like 5 seconds, boom. Question 9. How did the Connecticut Compromise, Great Compromise, protect minority rights while respecting majority rule? A, it allowed for a national referendum on major issues. B, it established equal representation in the Senate and proportional representation in the House. C, it granted states the authority to override federal laws through state legislatures. Or D, it required unanimous consent of all states to amend the Constitution. That's time. The answer is B. It established equal representation in the Senate and proportional representation in the House. One more question, and then we see the round 1 standings. Question 10. What did the case of Wisconsin v. Yoder in 1972 help clarify? Was it A, the Establishment Clause, B, the Free Exercise Clause, C, free speech, or D, rights of the accused? That's time. The answer is B, the Free Exercise Clause. Let's hear for the students who have completed round 1. Scores are coming momentarily. Students, you can spin around and take a look, or don't if you want to. If you're that in the zone, that's impressive. You're just like, I know what I did. All right, so there are the top 10 finishers in round 1. 9 points to 6 points separate the top 10. So it is still a very tight race. Round 2 of the state finals. Contestants, good to go? All right, good to go. Got a double thumbs up down here. I like that energy. All right, round 2, question 11. Which colony at the time of its establishment in 1663 had not declared an official religion or religious requirements for citizenship? A, Massachusetts. B, Rhode Island. C, Connecticut. D, Pennsylvania. That's time. The answer is B, Rhode Island. Question 12. In his farewell address, what did George Washington identify as essential to the access of the nation's political system? A, strong political parties to offer diverse opinions. B, public education to ensure an informed citizenry. C, morality to guide public and private behavior. Or D, expansion of executive powers to ensure stability. That's time. The answer is C, morality to guide public and private behavior. Question 13. Why was James Armistead's role in the American Revolution particularly significant? A, he served as a diplomat, securing French aid. B, he was an African-American spy who provided intelligence to the Continental Army. C, he led a battle in the Southern Campaign. D, he authored the first draft of the Articles of Confederation. That's time. The answer is B. He was an African-American spy who provided intelligence to the Continental Army. A note for the organizers, next year we could reduce the answer time to 15 seconds, get the event done twice as fast. They're all just like, Question 14. What was the primary purpose of the Sherman Antitrust Act of 1890? A, to establish a national bank. B, to regulate unfair business practices and monopolies. C, to create national parks and wildlife reserves. Or D, to reform the voting system. That's time. The answer is B, to regulate unfair business practices and monopolies. We are down to our final 5 questions. Question 15. In his Politics, Aristotle says that when a single ruler governs for their own private interest rather than for the common good, this is a corrupt form of government. What term does he use for this? A, aristocracy. B, tyranny. C, democracy. D, constitution. That's time. The answer is B, tyranny. Question 16. What did the rights of the British colonies asserted and proved in 1764 argue? Was it A, taxation without representation violated the colonists' natural rights? B, the colonies should demand immediate independence from Britain? C, British military presence in the colonies was illegal? Or D, the colonies had the right to nullify acts of Parliament? That's time. The answer is A. Taxation without representation violated the colonists' natural rights. Question 17. In Alexis de Tocqueville's Democracy in America, he says that associations give citizens the ability to resist powerful government because a people who can act together is never helpless. What meaning does de Tocqueville intend? A. Associations reduce the need for elections. B. Collective action can check the concentration of political power. C. Only the wealthy should form associations. Or D. Government should control all civic groups. That's time. The answer is B. Collective action can check the concentration of political power. Which is your favorite Federalist paper? Mine is Federalist 47, in which James Madison defines tyranny as A. As a government controlled by a dictator or king. B. As a government in which the national government predominates over the state governments. C. As the accumulation of all powers, legislative, executive, and judicial in the same hands. Or D. As any government ruled by a dominating faction. That's time. The answer is C, as the accumulation of all powers, legislative, executive, and judicial in the same hands. Question 19. Courts allow limits on direct donations to candidates, but not on outside group spending. Which idea explains this distinction in campaign finance law? A, independent spending poses a lower corruption risk than direct candidate contributions do. B, independent spending involves smaller amounts than direct contributions to candidates do. C, independent spending is not considered political speech under the First Amendment. Or D, independent spending has been proven to have no influence on election outcomes. That's time. The answer is A. Independent spending poses a lower corruption risk than direct candidate contributions do. Question 20. This is the final question in round 2. Which statement evaluates the constitutional significance of the District of Columbia being designated as a federal district rather than a state? A, it allows the district to exercise sovereign powers independent of the federal government. B, it grants the district's residents voting representation in both houses of Congress. C, it ensures the seat of government remains under the exclusive legislative authority of Congress. Or D, it requires the district to follow the laws of Maryland and Virginia for all local matters. That's time. The answer is C. It ensures the seat of government remains under the exclusive legislative authority of Congress. Finalists, kick back, relax. You're done with round one and you're done with round two. Let's have a big round of applause for all 26 finalists from across Colorado. All right, turn and look. You're going to find out, just as I do, who our finalists are. Our 5 finalists are Peter Daniel from Stargate Charter School in Broomfield. Alex Yao from Kent, Denver. Archer Knickerbocker Payton from Kent, Denver. Violet Bach from Steamboat Springs Middle School. And Harrison Asher Nathan from Kent, Denver. Three-way tie? Three-way tie. Harrison will be competing against Jude and Ava to see who makes the final. Let me get your schools correct. Jude Greener, happy birthday, Glenwood Springs Middle School, and then Ava Salgado Mo from Century Middle School. All right, it's tiebreaker time. So this tiebreaker is only for Harrison, Jude, Ava, if I'm correct. Harrison, Jude, Ava. Sorry, I got to write this down. I do not want to Steve Harvey this thing. Harrison, Jude, Ava. Okay. That's the one thing that we can't do here. All right, tiebreaker. Ava, Harrison, and Jude will participate in a tiebreaker round of 3 very difficult questions. That's not editorializing. It says on my script, very difficult questions, okay? Just a reminder, only the students tied for a spot in round 5 should answer these questions. Points from this round are only used to break the tie. They will not count toward the final scores in round 3. If there is a tie after these 3 questions, we'll refer to the average response time from the tiebreaker to determine the 5th panel. Goodness, okay. You ready? This is for the 3 of you. Question 21. Which principle did President Dwight D. Eisenhower demonstrate in 1957 when he sent federal troops to Little Rock, Arkansas to enforce school desegregation? Was it A, states may ignore federal court orders when a governor disagrees with them? B, the federal government may enforce federal court ruling to uphold the rule of law? C, the president may cancel Supreme Court decisions through executive order? Or D, local districts may delay compliance with federal court orders during unrest? That's time. The answer is B. The federal government may enforce federal court rulings to uphold the rule of law. Question 22. In Federalist 53 in 1788, why did James Madison argue that biennial 2-year terms for the House of Representatives were preferable to annual elections? A. Annual elections would be too expensive for the newly formed federal government. B, longer terms protect representatives from excessive executive branch interference. C, 2-year terms allow state legislatures more time to oversee federal representatives. Or D, representatives need time to acquire knowledge of national and interstate affairs. That's time. The answer is D. Representatives need time to acquire knowledge of national and interstate affairs. That was an incredibly difficult question because every single answer made sense. All right, question 23. Final question in the tiebreaker again, just for Harrison, Jude, and Ava. Federalists argued that the Constitution's checks and balances would prevent tyranny without needing a Bill of Rights. Which anti-federalist argument most directly challenged this claim by questioning the sufficiency of structural safeguards alone? A, representation would be too remote from ordinary citizens to protect liberty. B, checks and balances could fail, requiring additional protections like a Bill of Rights. C, a standing army under federal control would threaten individual liberty. Or D, an extended republic would weaken civic virtue and local accountability. That's time. The answer is B. Checks and balances could fail, requiring additional protections like a Bill of Rights. Let's turn our attention to the screen and see who won the tiebreaker for the final slot in the final round. It's Ava Salgado-Moe from Kent, Denver. While our finalists and our judges continue preparing for round 3, let's enjoy a special video celebrating Colorado's 150th anniversary.
For 150 years, giving has shaped Colorado's story, and it's just as true today. Colorado is a big state with an even bigger heart.
We're tough, and our resilience runs deep.
But our generosity runs deeper.
From nonprofits
To neighbors.
we're hands-on givers.
Hands-on givers.
Change makers.
Change makers.
Community champions.
And compassion runs deep in our veins.
And compassion runs deep in our veins.
When the storms of life come tearing through our town, we roll up our sleeves and get to work.
And get to work taking care of each other.
Because that's the Colorado way. That's the Colorado way.
Always has been.
From economic challenges to devastating floods and wildfires, we don't run away from a crisis, we run into it, like bison braving a storm.
Generosity here doesn't just rebuild what's lost.
It creates what's next, investing in tomorrow.
So ask yourself, what's in your heart? What's in your heart? What inspires you? How can you make a difference?
Keeping our natural places majestic.
Investing in the next generation.
Rebuilding lives and homes.
Rebuilding lives and homes.
Building stronger communities and brighter futures.
Creating bold solutions.
Making dreams come true.
Because generosity is not just what we do, it's who we are.
So let's continue to answer the call of kindness.
And climb higher together. Let's keep showing up.
Let's keep showing up.
Stepping up.
And lifting each other up.
Every act of generosity today writes Colorado's next chapter. Together, we'll make the next 150 years even stronger.
Because in Colorado, lifting each other elevates us all.
Welcome back, everyone. We have arrived at the final round of the 2026 National Civics Beat Colorado State Finals. I would like to encourage you to join me in congratulating our 5 finalists once again as I invite them to come up and join me on stage. Our finalists from Century Middle School in Thornton, Ava Salgado-Moe. From Steamboat Springs Middle School, Violet Bach. From Kent, Denver, Archer Knickerbocker Payton. Also from Kent, Denver, Alex Yao. And from Stargate Charter School in Broomfield, Peter Daniel. In this final round, the finalists will present a problem that they've identified and a solution that they have developed through their essay. I'll invite each student to the podium one at a time, beginning with the finalists who finished 5th after round 2 and continuing in reverse order. Each finalist will have 3 minutes to share their proposal, followed by 5 minutes of questions from our esteemed judges. Our judges will evaluate each presentation based on the students' understanding of civic principles, the effectiveness of their responses, and their ability to support their ideas with clear examples and evidence. These scores will be combined with today's earlier rounds, with the exception of the tiebreaker, to determine our 2026 Colorado State champion. Finalists, you good to go? Born ready, they said. They said they're born ready. Judges are good to go. Let's get started. Our first finalist from Century Middle School in Thornton is Ava Salgado Mo.
Okay, is this good? Okay. Hi everyone, I'm Ava from Century Middle School. Have you ever heard the term negativity sells? Well, that's really true online. A study by Neiman Labs done in 2023 found that negative posts are clicked on 2.3% more than unemotionally charged posts. For every negative word, that number increases. My question is, why? That has people, especially the people in my generation or my peers, their role models are incentivized to use shock or clickbait them instead of having their best interest at heart. Why is this a problem? It can push problematic views and prejudice onto people, which can lead to worse outcomes like hate crimes, and even in the worst cases, genocide. Why does empathy matter? Empathy for others and each other builds understanding and can help foster civil discourse, especially when we're here in places like a civics bee or a spelling bee, where we need to be kind to each other, even if we don't always agree. Empathy helps civic engagement because if you understand where another person is coming from, even if they don't share, let's say, your race or your economic standing, you will still understand how and why they need what they need, like food insecurity, for example. A lack of empathy can lead to prejudice, which can eventually lead to dehumanizing rhetoric and scapegoating. An example of this would be the Chinese Exclusion Act of 1882, when, due to economic hardship, Congress passed a bill that excluded Chinese immigrants and laborers from coming into our country because the public thought that they were the reason for many economic hardships the country was currently going through. The solution I propose is definitely a modern one. It's to work with micro-influencers and school districts to push forward positive role models and saturate the market with positive influence. Supreme Court Justice Louis Brandeis argued in his counter speech in Whitney versus California that the solution to hate or false speech is more speech and discussion, instead of the government banning hate speech. And rather than an enforced law or bill, I aim to have kids my age interact with these civic principles through things like the internet, which is a very recent invention. This ties into civics because our founding fathers established America as a place people could pursue their unalienable rights, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. My goal is to make it easier for people to pursue these rights, especially when it comes to that last part, happiness. If we were all just a little bit kinder to each other, I think that it would make that last part so much easier. And
That's time. That's time. Ava, the judges are going to have some questions for you now.
Okay.
Hi, Ava. My name is Caroline. One of the questions I wanted to ask is if you could expand a little bit on what do you mean by what makes a positive influence? Who have you seen be a positive influence? Some examples or what you have in mind there.
There are creators on like TikTok especially that teach people like math. There's a math teacher that I follow. I think a positive example could be anything from someone engaging in civil discourse to someone donating to like a food can center.
Thanks, Ava. I want to ask you, how would you go about persuading the micro-influencers or the social influencers to demonstrate the behaviors of kindness and empathy that you would want them to role model?
I think we need to work with school districts to help kids my age become those positive role models we want to see, instead of getting existing people to do it. Because it's harder when you have an established fan base and an established type of people that watch and react to your content. I think if we make new people who can show us how to do things, that would be a step in the right direction.
Ava Salgado-Mo, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ava. Thank you, judges, for the thoughtful questions. Our next finalist is Violet Bach from Steamboat Springs Middle School.
Okay. Hello, esteemed judges and audience members and people watching online. Our society is entering a new era, one marked by marvels of artificial intelligence and machine learning. But sometimes change isn't always for the better. It can make us lose sight of what matters most. With the invention and widespread application of AI, literacy rates in children have gone down significantly. According to Harvard University, 70% of children are below grade level standards in reading. To combat this, I plan to work with the Little Free Library Society to set up little free libraries across Steamboat and the surrounding Routt County to engage children in reading. I would enlist the assistance of the local Girl Scouts and children from the local school district to help decorate the Little Free Libraries. Little Free Libraries, just to clarify, are large wooden boxes, often decorated, in which people can place used books or grab new ones. I believe this will help engage kids in reading and help them find the joy in exploring new areas of life. I don't know. According to the National Literacy Trust, having books in the home can help children develop a lifelong love of reading. My solution demonstrates the founding principle of equality, because it is providing everyone with equal access to books and reading materials. It also reflects the civic virtue of responsibility, because by setting up Little Free Libraries, we are fulfilling our responsibility to the next generation of children, to prepare them for the future and whatever that might hold. Students need to have access to quality reading materials. With the global epidemic of false information, it's even more important to provide students with a stable base of information. And what's more accessible than the Little Free Library down the street?
Violet, thank you.
Is there an area in particular that you think other students could gain more knowledge in or become more literate in particular? I know you mentioned getting information online has been really popular, but is there one area in particular you think would be more beneficial?
I'm sorry, what do you mean? I don't exactly understand the question.
Like, do you think people could learn more about science from books? Could they learn more about civics from books? Could they learn more about fill in the blank? Is there a particular area?
I think generally all of the above, because people will be putting used books in. I don't really have control over what area they'll be learning or the people will have access to. I know recently when I was in Denver, I picked up a book from a little free library about mathematical thinking. So yeah, there's a lot of things that people can donate to, yeah.
All right, excellent. Violet Bach, thank you. Great job. I passed that same little free library. I saw that book on mathematical thinking, and I left it for you. Archer Knickerbocker Payton from Kent, Denver. Welcome.
In April 1776, John Adams wrote an open letter titled The Thoughts on Government, in which he defined a republic as an empire of laws and not of men, and the best republic as being set up to be best contrived to secure an impartial and exact execution of the laws. This truly highlights how our founding fathers thought we needed impartiality and unbiased in our court system to ensure true justice in our society. But over the last 250 years of U.S. history, that ideal has been lost, especially at a state level, where bias and partiality often interfere with the execution of laws. A large instance of this is the re-election of judges, where judicial inequality is a large problem because of something known as the electoral cycle effect, in which judges up for re-election or retention increase sentencing length by up to 10% to appear tougher and harsher on crime. Consider this hypothetical example. Two adults sell the same illicit drug at the same cost and are sentenced upon by the same judge, but their trials occur at different times. The trial that occurs during a re-election period is sentenced to 4 years in prison. Meanwhile, the other only 3.5. How is this fair? Our founding fathers had great concern for judicial corruption, and this is a large reason for the separation of powers. Hamilton wrote in Federalist Paper number 78 that the judiciary needs neither force nor will, but merely judgment and complete independence of the courts. No one can stand above or bend the law to their advantage, so why can't judges when it benefits them? Judicial elections should not mean harsher and longer sentences, because everyone is guaranteed due process under the Fifth Amendment. In 1966, Colorado passed a piece of legislation in which they created the Colorado Office of Judicial Performance Evaluation and merit-based selection and retention systems that replaced judicial elections in Colorado. The merit-based selection and retention system is great because it ensures the best qualified candidate receives the job. However, the electoral cycle effect still exists in these merit-based retention systems. That is why my solution would build on these merit-based systems by using pro tempore judges, which are temporary judges, to replace judges up for re-election 6 months before their term ends. The pro tempore model would use retired judges and lawyers with 5 or more years of experience who can volunteer to become a pro tempore judge. This list of volunteers would then be sent to the state Supreme Court, who will choose vetted nominees from this list of volunteers. This new list of vetted nominees will then be sent to a nominating commission of lawyers made up of 25 to 30 people to ensure diversity. To become a pro tempore judge, you will need to receive a 2/3 majority vote from this nominating commission of lawyers. Replaced judges will not lose their job. Instead, they will be rotated off the criminal docket and will handle civil trials only. To ensure my solution works and is implemented properly, I would work with the Alliance for Justice, who will help me vet nominees from the list to ensure everyone is truly qualified for the job they're volunteering for. I would also work with the Bar Association of each state to help implement and execute my solution properly. But by far, the most important group I would work with would be the Innocence Project, who will help me determine which types of cases are most affected by the electoral cycle effect.
That's time. The judges will have some questions.
Thank you. Archer, this is also a very complex problem that you articulated, but you did it really well, so congratulations there. The thing that I struggled with as I went through the essay, at least, was the separation of powers issue. You have your, you have an election for judges who are supposed to be impartial. Sometimes we don't like what people choose, but they choose it anyway. Can you explain to me how you find if people are choosing to elect judges and the judges' opinions waver based on elections, is that a reflection of what the people have voted for, or is it something that we should step into to fix, absent what the people have voted for? And then secondly, sorry for the second part, I assume you would need to work through this legislatively as well, because you didn't mention that here, but to affect some kind of change like this, you'd have to address the legislative side.
So for your first part of the question, what the people are voting for is what the judge appears like on paper and in court cases. But if that changes during a certain time of year, people don't truly know what they're voting for. So all this system is it's trying to make sure that people truly do know what they're voting for, who they're voting for, and what kind of policies this judge will take. And the legislative aspect of this would be important, but because the judicial branch is separate from these, you can integrate smaller policies, smaller changes. But the legislative part would be a large piece of this, and I would probably work with some congressmen to try and make sure the system is implemented in a way that truly makes sense.
Thanks, Archer. I have a two-part question too, so my apologies. But first off is when you think about this, clearly you've done some research, so I'm just curious on the perspective of like, how did you identify this as a community issue? How did you know this was something that you needed to work on? And then secondly, what obstacles do you see in the early stages of this process?
Yeah. So for the first part, there's a TV show called The Rookie, which focuses on cops and laws in Los Angeles. And I actually heard about it from an episode of that, where they talked about how a judge was going to sentence differently. And I decided I really cared about that, and I wanted to look more into that and figure out if that was a true problem. And I found out it is, and it's actually a large deal in our society, and judges truly do change their sentencing length. And some obstacles, I feel like the people, they might not understand the new system. It might seem a bit complicated. They might feel like they aren't doing enough. And in it, the judges who are in a nominated commission of lawyers, that could be a bit difficult to ensure diversity and to make sure it's a large range of perspectives. But I don't see that a lot of problems in the implementation of it.
Archer Knickerbocker Payton. Really interesting stuff. You did a great job with their two-part questions. Two-part questions are inherently unfair. I ask them all the time, and you did a very good job with those. Alex Yao from Kent, Denver.
I don't want to break this thing.
You just turn it down towards you.
Okay.
Yep.
Oh, okay. All right, can you guys hear me all right? Okay, good. When most people think of STEM, they just picture classrooms, experiments, equations, and technology. I used to think that too. Then I saw STEM change what happened outside the classroom. As a student, I've been fortunate to experience STEM through hands-on learning. Those opportunities taught me more than just science and engineering. They taught me how to solve problems, collaborate with others, and ask one important question. How can I use what I've learned to help my community? That question led me to found Health Education Workshops, a student-led service initiative at a Volunteers of America senior housing community in downtown Denver. In Colorado, obviously, each month I work alongside doctors, translators, students, and community organizations to provide health education for seniors who often face language, technology, and financial barriers. In the process, I learned from health professionals who use science every day to solve real problems and improve lives. That's when I realized something important. STEM isn't just something we study, it's something we use to solve real problems in our communities. But not every student has the opportunity to discover that. Across Colorado, many students, especially in rural and underfunded schools, lack access to science labs, robotics teams, advanced STEM classes, and other hands-on learning opportunities. In fact, only about 28% have consistent access to these opportunities. The problem? It's not a lack of talent, it's a lack of access. To address this challenge, I proposed creating the Colorado STEM Opportunity Network, a statewide partnership supported by an online platform. Schools could identify their STEM needs, while businesses, universities, nonprofit, and community organizations provide mentors, equipment, internships, and hands-on learning opportunities. Imagine a rural school that wants to start a robotics team. Through this network, a local company could donate equipment, a nearby university could provide mentors, and students could finally have the opportunity to learn by doing. Instead of just creating new resources, this network would connect the incredible resources Colorado already has. If successful, it could become a model that other states adapt to expand STEM access in their own communities. The same collaboration that made health education workshops possible can help expand STEM access. We aren't just preparing students for careers, we are empowering citizens to solve problems, serve others, and strengthen their communities. I know it's possible because STEM gave me the opportunity to do it. Now it's our turn to make sure every student has that same opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Alex. Nicely done. When you think about these resources, have you done any research on what's existing, what's out there, what happens here in Metro Denver, and what is missing in rural Colorado specifically?
I would say that, I think that a lot of, schools would consider some, chemistry classes, robotics teams. Those kind of resources can be considered kind of like an extra. And so instead of, having that, this program would work more to bring what people consider extra, because it could cost more money, it costs more time, and I think that this network would help to bring these resources over to these schools.
Alex Xiao from Kent Denver. Congratulations, good work. I don't know if you could see in the audience or see at home, but the way that I knew that she did not come to play is the edges of her note cards are laminated with tape. That is a pro move. She knows what's up. Our last finalist is Peter Daniel from Stargate Charter in Broomfield.
Can I take it out? Okay. Good morning, judges and audience members. I'm honored to be here before you. Now, to begin, I would like to give a statistic on my chosen community challenge, food insecurity. According to the Economic Research Service, as a part of the United States Department of Agriculture, 13.5% of households were food insecure at one point during the year 2023. Think about that. That is approximately 18 million households. And in 2024, 13.7% of households were food insecure. So that is a roughly 300,000 household increase, all in the span of these 2 years. So what is food insecurity? According to the Feeding America organization, food insecurity is a lack of knowledge of when or how you will obtain your next meal, something that many of us cannot even fathom. Yet it is so prevalent that it is a statistically growing concern in our communities, states, nation, and even the world. So why should we care? There's something known as Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which can be seen as a philosophical understanding of human motivation. It states that the security of physiological needs is the first and most vital step towards human growth and success. Yet many of our fellow citizens have not met these needs. Let us now look at the Declaration of Independence itself, which is heavily stated off John Locke's Second Treatise of Government. It states that among our natural rights include life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Yet, if our fellow citizens cannot pursue high-quality life or happiness, it is our civic duty to help them, to practice the civic virtue of responsibility and carry out the founding principle of natural rights. So what is my plan? Like any good approach, it starts small, with me and with you. The first step is all about raising awareness. As an Eagle Scout, I've seen the need in the community through my local food banks and food pantries, making many connections. I would address this by reaching out through clubs, sports teams, religious institutions, schools, and other organizations who could help promote the cause. I'd use posters, signs, fundraisers, events, advertisements, and social media influence to do this. The next step would run concurrently with the first, and that is all about enhancing involvement. I would promote active involvement in volunteer movements by rallying for support for specific days of work at locations of my community, such as North Denver Cares, Broomfield Fish, or Community Food Share, all places I have volunteered. This would allow us to retain volunteers who enjoy the work. I would begin requesting resources from corporate organizations and local businesses, which would come in the form of monetary donations, donations in kind, and donations of time and volunteer. Monies would be one of the most important factors of our success, as without it, the plan would not be able to function or expand, promote, and sustain growth. Finally, we would involve the government, solidifying our expansion and success, and involving the governmental workings and invaluable resources necessary for our cause. We'd also see an array of unexpected benefits, such as the breakdown of socioeconomic barriers and the formation of relationships and bonds invaluable to the long-term success of our community, securing a bright future and using our civic virtues to do good. So let's use our civic virtues to do good and really see we the people in action. Thank you.
This is a really complex problem, and I appreciate the amount of thought that you've given into it. And I can't imagine anyone would oppose your solutions and ideas. But who might oppose what you're trying to accomplish?
Yeah, they're always haters. I would say there are many different organizations who would not support the way that we would go about doing this, and that's why it's very important to take a multitude of different approaches and make sure that we're securing the benefits for the community. And what I mean by that is we need to make sure that we're remaining responsive to the needs of the community. Because if we don't, like you said, we could develop individuals who do not support the cause or think it is not correctly run. And a specific example of this is throughout the project, I would create committees or boards of individuals as it expanded and grew, and these would be individuals from the community, so we refrained from infringing on the voices of those involved. And they could post monthly newsletters, share results, track success, release feedback surveys, and oversee the plan's overall execution. Another very, very important part in this would be actually getting help from the government itself. As stated in Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution, the government, U.S. Congress has the necessary and proper clause, which says that it can make any piece of legislation law that is necessary to carry out its enumerated powers. And this was further proved in Helvering versus Davis, a Social Security Supreme Court case, where the Supreme Court ruled in a 7-2 majority that Congress can tax and spend in aid of the general welfare. This is something that we could use legislative advocacy to support and use our civic virtues and founding principles, as well as engage other community leaders to prevent opposition and make sure everybody feels heard in the cause. For example, a specific example is from 1983 to 1992, there existed a House Select Committee on Hunger. However, it was not renewed and the funds were rescinded. Advocating for the reinstallment of these kinds of organizations would allow us to reduce our opposition and increase the overall support throughout the community.
I was going to ask a question about the founding principles and civic virtues, but you just answered it. I would just say that I think if the management at 9 News is watching this, then Mr. Kyle Clark might need to worry about his job.
Thank you.
I was just going to go to something a little bit smaller. I was going to go back to the local level when you talk about your scout troop.
Of course.
What's the first step that you could take at a small scale that you could do immediately, potentially with your scout troop and the food bank you've already developed, to help grow and make it feel like anyone in this room could do what you're advocating for?
Well, that's why this is an opportunity. It's so much a problem, but it could be an opportunity for anyone. Anyone in this room right now can go out, they can go to their local food bank, and they can do what I'm about to say. So you can go to your local food banks, go to local food pantries, and you can volunteer. Some require specific sign up or registration. I went with my soccer team to the community food share food bank, and we had to sign up. But we did an immense amount of work in that one day. And just that makes a little bit of a difference. And as we start to make that difference, we're going to see that we're starting to use our civic virtues to do good and making sure that we're securing the founding principle of natural rights for all those involved. And I think it's also something utilizing consent of the governed, using that legislative advocacy and being the one person who goes would encourage others to stand up with you. Because if you're not afraid to make that difference, then others won't be either, and together we can make the change.
I think that was the drop the mic moment on the questions, Lauren.
All right, Peter Daniel brought down the house. Now, would you please join me in welcoming Hannah Skandera-Grady, President and CEO of the Daniels Fund. Daniels Fund is the founding partner of the National Civics Bee, launching the initiative in 2022. The Daniels Fund will be awarding the Bill Daniels National Civics Award, including the $100,000 scholarship for the winner of the national championship this October in D.C. Please clap until I place the sign on the front of the podium again.
Oh, way to follow instructions. The clapping continued until the sign was placed. I feel like I just said, holy smokes, incredible day, incredible kids. That was awesome, just awesome to see everything. I will say, I feel like this gives us a great opportunity to ask ourselves just one question. Do you know more about your country than a middle schooler? Maybe a couple did, but most of us didn't, because we saw who won, and yeah, there were a lot of people who didn't raise their hand when we did the competition. So incredible. I will say to our students, families, teachers, judges, our partners at the Colorado Chamber Foundation, and everyone who made today possible, thank you for being here. And just congratulations to every single student. Kyle said it. They all prepared to stand up here and bring a challenge and a solution. If that doesn't inspire you and inspire you about the next generation and what they're bringing to the table, I don't know what will. I am incredibly proud to stand here and say congratulations to each one of these young people. You are truly among Colorado's brightest young citizens, and I do choose that word intentionally. Today isn't simply about what you know. It's about what you'll do with your knowledge. Each of you identified a challenge in your community and asked a simple but powerful question. How can I help solve it? That's how communities grow stronger. That's how leaders emerge. It's also wonderful to welcome back last year's Colorado champion, Cameron Parker. After the Marshall Fire, Cameron proposed a better emergency alert system to help protect families during disasters. His idea earned him the opportunity to represent Colorado in Washington, D.C. at the National Civics Bee. And I got to be there, and it was a very proud moment. Cameron, you represented Colorado well, so congratulations again. I will tell you that Bill Daniels, the founder of the Daniels Fund, would have loved the Civics Bee, and he would have enjoyed meeting each of these students here on stage and all of you out in the audience. He believed that success carries responsibility. He was a decorated Navy fighter pilot who served in both World War II and the Korean War, and he believed each of us has an obligation to leave our country better than we found it. I think he would be incredibly proud to see these students already doing exactly that. So to the parents, grandparents, teachers, and mentors here today, thank you. You're raising young people who care about their country and want to make their communities better. That matters more than you know. And to our finalists, whether your name is called today or not, remember this. The greatest prize isn't a trophy. It's discovering that your voice, your ideas, and your citizenship matters. America's next 250 years will be shaped by people who choose to step forward. Looking at all of you here on stage and all of you out in the audience, I have every reason to believe Colorado and America are in very good hands. So congratulations to all of you young people, and thank you.
Our third place winner receives a trophy and a $250 cash prize. Our third place winner this year is Archer Knickerbocker Payton from Kent, Denver. Our second place winner will also receive a trophy and a $500 cash prize. Now we can see him. Thank you, Bruce. Oh, look at this. Thank you. Third place. Okay, go ahead, Archer. Oh, I think we've got the wrong check. Wrong check. Wrong check. Wrong check. I will note for the record that the amount on the check does not reflect what's in my script, but it's not my money, so it's not my problem. The second place winner will receive a trophy, and according to this sheet, a $500 cash prize, but take a look at the check, okay? Our second place winner is Alex Yao from Kent, Denver. And now, the 2026 Colorado State Champion of the National Civics Bee, receiving a trophy, a $1,000 cash prize, and the honor of representing Colorado at the National Championship in Washington, D.C. this October. The 2026 Colorado State Champion is Peter Daniel from Stargate Charter School in Broomfield. Let's hear it one more time for our champion, Peter Daniel, our 5 finalists, and the 26 finalists from around Colorado. Thank you to all of our students, the families, the educators, the judges, the sponsors, the volunteers, and the staff who made today possible. We invite everybody to remain for photos, join us for the lunch reception following the ceremony, and thank you again. Congratulations to everybody for making it to today's event. Thank you for being a part of what is always a joyous, fun time and a celebration of what makes America great. Have a wonderful day.